Hello, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. In our previous session, I talked to you about some simple drinks that can help protect your eyes as you age. Today, I won't be talking about what you drink. I want you to focus on what you put on your plate, the food you eat every day. Specifically, 3 types of seeds, small, yet extremely beneficial for your vision, especially after the age of 60. Before we dive deeper, I want to ask you a few honest questions. Have your eyes been dry, gritty, or burning recently? Do you find reading increasingly difficult even with the correct prescription glasses? Do you frequently have to squint or notice that things around you are no longer as clear as they used to be? If the answer is yes, you are not alone. And no, this is not a passing feeling. This is a physiological reality. Your retina, the thin layer at the back of your eye, is starting to degrade. Old age does that. After 60, the retina becomes weaker due to poor blood circulation, chronic inflammation, and oxidative stress. But here is the most dangerous point most people overlook. The retina has no sensory nerves. It doesn't hurt. You won't feel anything until you've already lost a portion of your vision. And when you realize it, it's often too late. I have met many people who come in for consultation, not because of pain, but because they can no longer clearly see the faces of loved ones, can't read the newspaper, or have to strain to watch a movie. Losing vision is not just losing the ability to see. You are gradually losing your independence, confidence, and connection to the world around you. However, you are not entirely helpless. You don't need expensive pills or dangerous interventions. What you need to do is understand what your body is asking for and provide it with exactly what it needs. There are 3 types of seeds. Simple, cheap, easy to find that have been scientifically confirmed to reduce inflammation, improve blood circulation to the eyes, and stimulate tear production. They are not complicated. They are not difficult to use, and you can start using them today. So keep watching. I will point out each type of seed, analyze its specific effects, and guide you on how to incorporate them into your daily meals. If this is your first time tuning into this channel, subscribe now so you don't miss any practical content that helps you maintain your health independence and quality of life just by making small choices every day. We start with the first seed, and there's a clear reason why I call it the silent hero of the retina. Many people only see chia seeds appearing on a cup of yogurt or floating beautifully in a glass of water and dismiss them. But behind that simple appearance is a nutrient source that can directly impact your aging eyes, especially the retina, the area that determines your entire ability to see the world clearly. Why are chia seeds especially important for people over 60? The answer is very specific. The retina needs to be constantly nourished with oxygen nutrients and natural anti-inflammatory mechanisms 24 hours a day, or ZA. As you age, the speed of blood circulation decreases. Subtle inflammation appears around the eyes, and natural moisture, including tears, significantly declines. This is the foundation that creates a chain reaction, leading to dry eyes, eye fatigue, and eventually, vision loss. This is where chia seeds play their role. Chia seeds contain omega-3 in the form of ALA, a plant-based fat that can reduce inflammation in the retina and maintain stable blood flow to the eye. When the retina receives enough blood and is less inflamed, the progression of age-related macular degeneration, a common cause of central vision loss in people over 60, slows down. If you don't eat fish or can't tolerate fish oil, chia becomes a natural, easily accepted alternative that is less likely to interact with medications. Not only that, chia seeds provide lutein zeaxanthin and a group of polyphenols. These are the exact ingredients often formulated into expensive eye supplements. These substances act as a protective layer, helping to filter blue light and UV rays before they destroy retinal nerve cells. For those who frequently use phones, read under bright lights, or are exposed to the sun outdoors, this protective mechanism is particularly valuable. One point few people notice: chia forms a natural gel when soaked. This gel helps retain water in the body, thereby improving the tear film layer. Older adults often squint, feel gritty, and have to use artificial tears. But the effect doesn't last. By regularly supplementing with chia, the meibomian glands, the glands responsible for producing the oil layer that keeps the eyes moist, work more stably, helping the eye surface remain smooth when blinking. Chia also affects the area around the cornea. Omega-3 and antioxidants in chia seeds soothe inflammatory reactions in the conjunctiva, very helpful for those who often experience red eyes pain or discomfort after looking at screens for too long. Thanks to their magnesium and potassium content, chia also supports the elasticity of eye capillaries, helping blood deliver oxygen and nutrients to the back of the eye, more effectively reducing the risk of retinal hemorrhage, especially in people with prediabetes or high blood fat levels. The next effect of chia is slowing down the rate of cataract formation by fighting free radicals. Those living in sunny areas with continuous UV exposure or who are over 55 will benefit noticeably from this protective mechanism. When blood sugar rises rapidly after a meal, retinal blood vessels are under great pressure. Chia has a low glycemic index, which helps sugar be absorbed slowly, reducing retinal damage from prolonged high sugar levels. Rich in good fats, protein, and minerals, chia seeds also boost the concentration ability of the optic nerve. Older adults often complain about not being able to read small, print-blurred vision after a few minutes or slight eyelid twitching due to nutrient deficiency. When chia is included in the diet, the eyes are more stable, less prone to muscle twitches, and can maintain focus longer when reading or viewing screens. The method of use is very straightforward. You only need to add a small amount to oatmeal smoothies or soak them in water to drink slowly. Chia is almost tasteless, so it blends easily into meals. However, absolute caution is required. Always drink plenty of water when consuming chia. Do not consume chia in its dry state. Start with a small amount, about a teaspoon a day, and then gradually increase. If you are taking anticoagulant or blood pressure medication, consult your doctor first, as chia can slightly affect blood clotting in some people. I have a patient named Edna 6 who is in the early stages of macular degeneration. She often suffered from dry eyes and had to use artificial tears several times a day. After 3 weeks of adding chia to her breakfast, she noticed her eyes felt more rested in the morning, and the frequency of artificial tear use significantly decreased. Her eye doctor even noted a reduction in inflammation around the retina compared to the previous checkup. That's clear proof of the power of a small, consistently maintained habit. When I say that chia seeds are a senior-friendly food, that's not just a subjective compliment. It's based on a real mechanism: improving blood flow, reducing inflammation, moisturizing the eyes, and providing essential nutrients in just a small spoon a day, without requiring you to change your entire menu. Now we'll talk about the second type of seed, a powerful tool that helps protect the macula, the central part that determines your ability to see clearly. If chia seeds are the silent ally of the retina, then flax seeds are the protective shield for the macula, the area that allows you to see every line of text, every expression, every detail on a loved one's face. After the age of 60, this area is often the one that weakens the fastest. When it's damaged, reading a dimly lit restaurant menu or following lyrics in a hymn book becomes a challenge. And this is not a rare occurrence. This is a normal physiological process if not intervened correctly. That's why I often emphasize to my older patients, focus on protecting the macula. And on the list of effective and inexpensive things, flax seeds rank highly. Flax seeds like chia seeds also contain plant-based omega-3, ALA. But there is a clear difference. The density of ALA in flax seeds is higher. This means their ability to reduce inflammation and nourish the retina is also stronger. Inflammation is one of the silent factors causing macular degeneration, a condition that causes central vision to blur, making you see the world as if through a fogged pane of glass. Photoreceptor cells in the macula need continuous nourishment to maintain function. When there's a lack of omega-3 or prolonged inflammation, they weaken. Your eyes start to blur. Colors are no longer distinct and contrast fades. It's as if someone just reduced the sharpness on your TV. In addition to omega-3, flax seeds possess an advantage that chia seeds do not. Lignans, a group of special antioxidants found only in a few foods, and flax seeds are the richest source. Lignans have the ability to neutralize free radicals, the silent destroyers that damage eye tissue, injure capillaries, and weaken the optic nerve. When free radicals are neutralized, blood circulation improves. The eyes are more stable and light sensitivity noticeably improves. And here's something very few people pay attention to. Inflammation in the gut can directly affect the eyes, what medicine calls the gut-eye axis. Flax seeds contain soluble fiber that helps feed beneficial gut bacteria. When the gut is stable, systemic inflammation also decreases. I have witnessed this repeatedly in practice. A typical case is Mr. Harold, 74. He often complained that his eyes were red, itchy, and sensitive to light, especially when driving in the afternoon. Restaurant lights made him squint constantly, making it hard to follow conversations. After adding a spoon of ground flax seeds to his yogurt every morning, the situation changed within just a month. He no longer squinted as much. His digestion was better, and he felt he saw more clearly. At the next checkup, his eye doctor noted reduced inflammation around the macula, and that came from a simple, practical, daily change. However, one thing must be adhered to. Flax seeds must be ground before eating. Consuming whole seeds will not yield the benefits. The body cannot digest the hard outer shell. You can grind them yourself with a coffee grinder or buy them pre-ground. Store them refrigerated to prevent the oil from oxidizing. When starting, only use a teaspoon a day, increasing gradually as your body adapts. And if you are taking hormone-affecting medication or anticoagulants, consult your doctor before regular consumption. Flax seeds are natural, but the absorption mechanism still clearly interacts with the body. In practical application, flax seeds are very flexible. No complex recipes are needed. Just sprinkle them on cereal, mix them into pancake batter, or stir them into soup. You will hardly notice any flavor, but your eyes will feel the change over time. Flax seeds not only nourish the tear glands to reduce dry eyes, especially for those living in air-conditioned environments or looking at screens constantly, but also reduce red eyes, fight chronic conjunctivitis, and nourish the optic nerve thanks to vitamin B1, magnesium, and copper. The polyphenols in them slow down the progression of macular degeneration, the leading cause of blindness in the elderly. If you have a family history of macular degeneration, this is a food you should actively start using early. Furthermore, lignans and natural vitamin E in flax seeds also help slow down the cataract formation process, which is especially important if you are often exposed to the sun, work outdoors, or have used corticosteroids for a prolonged time. Thanks to soluble fiber, flax seeds help balance blood sugar, reducing the strain on retinal capillaries. This is a key factor in preventing eye complications from diabetes. The magnesium in flax seeds also helps stabilize blood pressure, reducing pressure on the back of the eye, supporting control of glaucoma risk. Besides, the fatty acids and plant collagen in flax seeds also contribute to maintaining the elasticity of the skin around the eyes, reducing mild ptosis, droopy eyelids in older people. In summary, flax seeds are a simple, inexpensive tool, but they have a comprehensive impact on the eye from the retina, macula, and lens to the circulatory system and even the skin around the eyelids. 1 tablespoon a day used correctly and regularly, your eyes will notice it. Now to the third seed, one that is often underestimated but provides the most practical solution for reducing dry eyes and improving blood circulation to the retina. I am talking about sunflower seeds. Perhaps you've eaten them while watching football or simply have a bag of them in your pantry. Most people only see them as a snack. But the truth is, this seed contains nutrients that the aging eye desperately needs, especially if you frequently have to blink due to dryness, fatigue, or blurry vision in the afternoon. The highlight of sunflower seeds is their high natural vitamin E content. This is an antioxidant that prevents the aging and damage of the retina caused by free radicals. You can imagine it simply oxidative stress acts like rust, gradually corroding vital eye tissues. Especially when you are exposed to bright light computer screens or fluorescent lights for too long. Vitamin E helps slow down this destruction process. It supports the central vision area, the macula, and helps slow down degeneration in that area over time. And importantly, you are absorbing this vitamin E from real food, not from synthetic capsules. In addition to vitamin E, sunflower seeds also provide a group of healthy fats, specifically unsaturated fats, which play a role in maintaining the oil layer on the surface of the eye, helping the eyes retain stable moisture. If you've ever felt your eyes burning and gritty in the afternoon, that's a sign that the tear film layer has become unstable. This is not just simple dry eye, but a breakdown of the protective structure of the eyeball's surface. The combination of vitamin E, good fats, and a small amount of zinc in sunflower seeds can support the tear glands to secrete oil, consistently keeping the tear film functioning smoothly. Especially effective if you live in an air-conditioned environment, frequently use screens, or are over 60. Furthermore, your retina functions thanks to tiny blood vessels. When these capillaries weaken, the retina doesn't receive enough oxygen and nutrients. This reduces visual clarity, causes eye fatigue and heaviness in the eyelids. Sunflower seeds provide selenium and magnesium, 2 minerals that have a mild vasodilation effect and support blood circulation to the eyes. When blood is pumped evenly, the nerve tissues in the eye function stably, reducing the feeling of deep ache in the eye sockets and limiting the urge to close the eyes after a few minutes of reading. I have a patient named Joyce, 79. She still drives herself to choir practice twice a week. Recently, she shared that whenever she read for a long time, her eyes felt strained and her vision blurred, especially in the evening. I only asked her to add a tablespoon of unsalted sunflower seeds to her afternoon snack, simply sprinkling them on Greek yogurt with some berries. After 3 weeks, she reported back the strained feeling disappeared, and she could drive at dusk without her eyes feeling as tired as before. This is not a miracle result. This is the result of a simple, consistent habit performed every day. In addition to the aforementioned benefits, sunflower seeds also support slowing the progression of cataracts, one of the main causes of insidious blurry vision in older adults. The natural vitamin E content in this seed is high enough to prevent proteins in the lens from clumping into opaque patches. For those frequently exposed to sunlight or working under bright lights constantly, this protective mechanism is necessary. At the same time, sunflower seeds contain phytosterols, a group of plant compounds with anti-inflammatory properties. They help soothe irritated eye tissues, reducing the risk of blepharitis, conjunctivitis, or chronic red eyes. This is especially helpful for people who often have red whites of their eyes or discomfort when going out into the light. For those with a history of high blood pressure or high blood fat levels, this seed also helps reduce pressure on the back of the eye, where the highly vulnerable retinal capillary system is located. When blood pressure or blood fats are high, these blood vessels are damaged, leading to retinal hemorrhage and gradual vision loss. Unsaturated fatty acids, along with phytosterols in sunflower seeds, can support the reduction of blood fats and stabilize blood pressure, thereby indirectly protecting the back of the eye. Sunflower seeds also provide vitamin B and protein 2 components that help nourish the optic nerve. This helps improve signal transmission, reduces blurry vision when looking at screens for a long time, and limits the tearing that occurs due to eye fatigue. Another often overlooked benefit is the impact on the eyelid skin area. When there's a lack of vitamin E, collagen, and essential nutrients, the skin around the eyes becomes dry, wrinkled, and prone to mild ptosis. Sunflower seeds provide natural vitamin E along with plant collagen, helping improve elasticity. Keep eyelids firm and reduce dark circles and wrinkles around the eye sockets due to aging. However, caution is also needed. Choose shelled, unsalted seeds, especially if you are managing blood pressure. If you have dental issues, use ground seeds or mix them into smoothies and baked goods. Like any food rich in fats and fiber, if you have a sensitive digestive system or gallbladder issues, start with a small amount and monitor your reaction. But overall, this is one of the simplest ways to nourish your eyes without changing your lifestyle. It doesn't require you to take medication. It doesn't force you into a strict diet. It's just a spoonful of seeds every day, and let your body do the rest. Now you understand the effects of all three types of seeds, and perhaps you are asking yourself, what should I do next to turn this knowledge into concrete action? Then focus on the next step. You've learned about the three seeds, chia flax and sunflower, each providing a unique but essential nutrient for aging vision. You don't need to eat all three every day. You don't need to change your entire diet. You don't need a detailed, rigid plan. What you need is to create a routine of regular seed consumption during the week. A routine stable enough for your eyes to be nourished from the inside without disrupting your entire lifestyle. You don't have to be completely dependent on medication or prescriptions. The solution can lie in a small, consistently repeated action. A spoonful of seeds in your oatmeal every morning. A small handful sprinkled on yogurt in the afternoon. These seemingly trivial things bring about real biological impact. I have witnessed it many times. One of my patients, Mr. Albert 81, came in with dry, easily irritated eyes and difficulty focusing while reading. We didn't replace his entire diet. We just added ground flaxseed powder to his yogurt 3 times a week and a little bit of sunflower seeds to his lunch salad. After 4 weeks, he reported reading was easier, his eyes no longer burned in the evening, and most importantly, he felt back in control. Not because he did anything huge. He simply chose the right things and maintained them regularly. This isn't just about nutrition. This is about agency. This is how you restart the relationship with your eyes, an organ that is still silently working for you every day, just waiting to be supported correctly. Therefore, what you need to do now is very clear. Review what you are eating. Choose a point in the day, morning, noon, or evening, to add one type of seed. Even just one type is fine. Chia flax or sunflower. You decide. But don't ignore it. If you choose chia seeds, use one of the following methods. Soak 2 teaspoons with 250 milliliters of warm water for 10 minutes and drink. Or soak overnight in the refrigerator to create chia gel, drink in the morning to reduce dry eyes. You can also sprinkle them on porridge salad or mix them into juice and smoothies. Absolutely do not swallow when dry. The risk of esophageal blockage is real. If you choose flax seeds, do not eat them whole. They must be ground into a fine powder and used up within 7 days. You can mix a tablespoon of flaxseed powder with warm water, adding lemon or honey if needed. Or sprinkle them on oatmeal porridge smoothies or baked goods. Flax powder is easily oxidized, so only grind enough for a week and do not store it for too long. And if you choose sunflower seeds, use the shelled, unsalted type. You can eat them directly as an afternoon snack, or sprinkle them on salad, cereal, oatmeal soup porridge, or even blend them into a smoothie. Older people with weak teeth can lightly crush them before consuming. However, do not exceed 30 g per day due to the high fat content. Remember the simple principle: drink, sprinkle, mix, grind. Those are the 4 practical ways to integrate these seeds into your meals. 2. TSP chia. 1 TBSP ground flax. 1 handful of sunflower seeds per day. Eyes lubricated from the inside. This is not a diet. This is a biological support regimen. Every spoonful you add is a step you actively take toward sustainable visual health, and your eyes will respond to that care not with emotion, but with function. Clearer, softer, less fatigued. Start today. If you're still watching now, that tells me one clear piece of information: you are serious about your own health. You are not waiting for risk to arrive before reacting. You are being proactive. And you are prioritizing your vision, not just for yourself, but for those who depend on you, love you, and need you to still see clearly. When vision starts to decline, the consequence is not just difficulty reading or seeing. It affects your ability to connect with others. It makes you lose your independence. And it makes normal activities that were once simple become restricted. Things that were once familiar, like reading your grandchildren's names in a message, clearly seeing a loved one's face, or driving yourself to the store, become challenges. But the only message I want you to grasp is this: you are not passive. You don't have to sit back and wait for things to get worse. A spoonful of seeds at breakfast, a precise choice in your food, a little attention to how your eyes feel every day. Each small thing can create a real change. You can intervene. You can nourish your retina, reduce inflammation, support tear production, and above all, you are sending a signal to your entire body that I still care. I am not making false promises. I am only sharing what has been proven. Small, consistent changes create results. I have observed calmer eyes, significantly reduced dryness and burning, and more stable vision. Not through special therapy, but through making seeds like chia flax and sunflower a part of the weekly eating schedule. Whether you are at the starting point or have been dealing with eye issues for years, the principle remains true. It's never too late to start, not too late to change the way you care for your eyes, and not too late to regain control. If this video gave you an extra tool, a direction, or a clear step, then I want you to take one concrete action. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next video. Hit like if this content clarified something for you, and share it with someone who needs it. If you have already tried chia flax or sunflower, or are about to start, leave a comment below. Write about your experience. Send a feedback. I read every line, and your story might be the reason someone else starts their eye care journey today. I'm not asking you to do everything. I'm just asking you to be present in your own body. No need to be perfect. Just be present and caring. Take care of your eyes. And don't neglect yourself.